Okay, so I've done two records with you, and both of them to me were some of the best stuff you've done. I mean, Shapeshifting was like this planet, but then the Elephants of Mars was like we went to a whole nother planet. I mean, so I'm just curious, like, so when you write song, when you come up with okay, I'm going to do this record. I mean, what inspires you? Do you have a whole method, or you just fall into it?
I kind of fall into it. I wait until I start to get a an unstoppable kind of inspiration inside that's saying, "This sounds cool. This feels right. This interests me." These some could be some unusual rhythms or harmonic structures that seem to just fit with how I feel. My spirit at the moment. And sometimes it comes right as I'm finishing an album. Sometimes I have to wait like 6 months to clear out the album. Like The Elephants of Mars was a very big, diverse album. I covered so much ground that I think getting over it was way harder than some of the other records I've done that were more narrow in their stylistic scope, like one kind of sound. I kind of felt that way. Like after I did Surfing with the Alien, it was so oriented towards celebrating rock music that I missed. I just put a lot of celebratory kind of stuff in there that when I finished recording it, I just started writing Flying in a Blue Dream almost right away. And that album became expansive and in style and scope. So I was just the other day, I was beginning to feel like I'm onto a new thing now, but it took how many months, a year for me to get to that point where I thought, okay, next thing I do, I want it to be raw for some reason. So that's the only indication I have right now is to make it more live and raw. So it's good that we're going on tour.
Well, dude, I mean, the Elephants of Mars. I mean, damn, that was to me that was your heaviest record because it was so complex and so diverse and had a serious. Everything was kind of serious, but not in a bad way. It just was like intense. But maybe it had something to do with we were going through that horrible pandemic too. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think the being at home and separated from everybody gave me more time to reflect. I was certainly so bummed out that we didn't get to tour Shapeshifting right on time. Everyone was like packed and ready to go to the airport. We were just, it was really hard to figure out a way to get all that energy to dissipate somehow. So I think that in a way that when I started to realize, okay, what's bad about recording albums? And how does this new situation we're in, although it's horrible, how will it help alleviate some of the things that I think is negative about, making albums? And the only thing I really came up with was the time element. Like when we were doing Shapeshifting at Jim Scott's, you have to rent the building and Jim's available for only certain times. And then your career and Chris's career and everyone's got gigs. And so the scheduling's important. And then when we get there, we've got to work really hard. All the music is new to you guys and to Jim and his crew. So that is the thing. It's that time crunch where the artist who's written the songs is like every day is going, is that the take? Is that the definitive version of this song? And because it's new to me as well, I don't know. So there's always compromises and guesses going on. And then you got to deliver the album. And so I thought, well, okay, now here we are. I'm starting the Elephants of Mars, no release schedule. I don't have to get in and out of any studio. And, if you call me up and say, Joe, I can't do the drums until next month, I go, that's okay. Take your time. And that never happens, right? In the normal record business, everything is like, get it done now. So I think that changed how deeply I went inside of myself to write a song. So like if it's something like Faceless, I might have thought if I only had a week to write, rehearse, and then record the band, it wouldn't have had the same heaviness to it because we would have to move so quickly. But having months to work on it, I could walk into my studio week after week and listen to it and say to myself, it's not emotional enough. Like, tweak it here. Maybe that part's too short. That's too long. Maybe I should play fewer notes here. And so by the time I would deliver it to you and the other guys, you would have heard something that I'd really poured over, but not in a perfectionist point of view, just in a compositional and emotional approach to it. Because as you know, I told you and everybody else, play a million different ideas, whatever you want. And in your case, Eric was there to record all your different ideas. And we could all sit back and take a couple of weeks or months to figure out what is the coolest performance and how did Kenny surprise us? Let's use that one, that kind of thing. And again, in a normal set of recording sessions, you would never have that luxury.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the coolest things was when you called me up and said, well, we're not going on tour, but I'm going to start another record. And that was it was like bittersweet. And yeah, that was the coolest thing because every day I'd come to my studio during the pandemic. That's what I did anyway. But that was a blast because, yeah, some of the songs I revisited a bunch of different times per your discussion with Eric and my discussion with Eric. And your they didn't sound like demos to me, but what I was getting from you, layers and layers of guitars and a really obvious composition. It was very clear what you were trying to do, which was very exciting. And I mean, yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's all started from you, then it came to me, and we got my stuff done. Then it went to Brian Bellers on bass, and then it went to Ray, maybe with a little overlap.
Yeah, most of the time that was exactly how it happened. There were a few things where we got Ray's solos on kind of like demos, but when I work at home, I'm starting a Pro Tools session file at 96K, so everything's a keeper right from the very beginning, and all, as you said before, all the different impressions about what the guitar could do, what the keyboards could do, a make-believe bass part that I'll put on there, and some drum loops, but the structure of the song is pretty close. The tempos are locked down, and there are lots of performances that the other musicians can draw from. So, Eric was our center guy who would, put all these impressions together every time someone would send him something. But we were using email. First I'd send a text, a track, and say, Ray, do you think you could solo here? And he'd be like, oh, cool, send the track. And Eric would put together a Pro Tools session and send it to Australia or New Zealand, wherever, or Tasmania, wherever he was. And he'd wind up just doing it wherever he was, hotel room or in his home studio. He emailed it back to us, and then we'd go back and forth like, well, where are we going to put it? That's amazing. We have to use it, So, yeah, sometimes you would hear a solo, which normally you'd put on last, but you'd hear it first. Work, though, because I think when all of us heard Ray for the first time, I think it was on Sailing the Seas of Ganymede, we all went like, oh my God, who is this kid? And I remember him sending the track back, and he soloed in the wrong place. But immediately after hearing it one time, I called Eric and I said, he soloed in the wrong place. And he goes, yeah. And I get, but we're just going to leave it right there because whatever's happening there, that is so like freaky. So I'll rewrite the second half of the song so that Ray's solo makes sense. That's the kind of thing we could do that because we had the freedom of time.